Good afternoon. I'm forewarned meteorologist Kim Adams. Just within the last few minutes, a winter weather advisory has been issued for Thursday for parts of Metro Detroit, including Oakland and Macomb counties. I'll have your forecast coming up.
You're looking live at the MSU Union. We're tracking the mass shooting investigation on campus, updating the conditions of those injured, and we're going to show you students fighting for change. Paula.
We're going to be talking about dealing with the stages of anxiety and grief. They're very, very specific stages. When you recognize them, you can understand how you can handle them so that they don't become crippling.
Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News First at 4 starts now.
Good afternoon. I'm Karen Drew. First at 4, the reality of a deadly campus shooting is still settling in for thousands of families connected to Michigan State University. Today, some students started the grim task of reclaiming their belongings. Let's take a live look at the MSU Union right now. Earlier today, the FBI was escorting students in and out of the Union to claim their belongings that they left when they ran for their lives less than 48 hours ago. The investigation continues into why a gunman launched that shooting spree that left 3 Metro Detroiters dead. Earlier today, a few hundred MSU students gathered outside the state capitol in Lansing, calling for what they call common sense gun control. Speakers talked about their frustration with current leaders who haven't been able to solve the problem of gun violence. MSU student Jacob Toomey is in his 20s, but already an Eaton County commissioner. He's defending his generation as they demand change.
One thing I've heard a lot in our generation is that we've gone a little soft, that we need to feel protected, that we need safe spaces. And I can tell you why. That's because we've never been safe. Our generation has never been safe at school and in places of celebration and places of peace.
The students also delivered letters and visited lawmakers pushing for tougher gun laws. The funeral for Brian Frazier of Grosse Pointe will be held on Saturday after a viewing on Friday evening. As far as we know, arrangements are still pending for Ariel Anderson and Alex Werner. The 5 other victims remain in critical condition at Sparrow Hospital this afternoon. On-campus classes are canceled the rest of the week to give students some time to start their healing process. The MSU Police and Public Safety Department will hold a press briefing tomorrow at 10 a.m. to offer the next update on the case. Meantime, across Michigan today, many of us are just grappling with rapidly changing emotions as we continue to try to wrap our heads around the mass shooting murders at Michigan State University. Paula Tutman is talking to students and our Local 4 experts to find ways to contextualize our anxiety, understand its stages, and then deal with our own fears as well as the fears of our loved ones.
We stopped by Oakland University because we knew that this was their day of care. They actually have this day of care, but today they're dedicating it to, well, obviously Michigan State University. This affects these students deeply. A lot of them, they went to school with some of those students, but also when I talked to some of the students here, even as they sign their note of support, what they expressed to me is that they feel like they themselves live under a blanket of anxiety. And that seems to be a common thread from MSU, where students hid for hours in closets and behind sofas.
I'm still trying to process it.
To OU, where there is an empathy that seems to go to the core.
It's becoming like almost an everyday occurrence. You wake up and it's like, oh, this is happening here, this is happening here.
And back again. One moment you're fine, the next, not really.
It's been difficult to sleep these past couple nights.
Dr. Rose Moten, a clinical psychologist and Local 4 mental health expert, explains that the stages of anxiety can be similar to the stages of grief.
The first few days can be a stage of shock, and denial, almost like, did this really happen?
And whether you're a student suffering from anxiety or a parent watching it escalate seemingly out of control, there are some specific things to keep in mind.
If someone is just really having what you may see as a panic attack, you want to not match them in their level of anxiety, which can be difficult for parents. It's like, what's wrong? What do I need to do? We want to fix it. We all know that. It's to counter that with a calm voice, reassurance, reassure them that you are safe.
Understanding the stages.
The first is that shock, that denial, right? This can't really be happening. Then there's anger. So you will see some emotional dysregulation where people are perhaps lashing out. The bargaining that comes in, and then after the bargaining, you have depression. And then the last stage is the acceptance.
And the natural vacillation between them is important to manage your emotions, particularly acute emotions, or to help someone else manage theirs.
Ask the question, what is it that you need from me right now? Ask that question. What is it? And sometimes you may not get an answer, even if it's just standing there, placing your hand on that person's back, their shoulder, giving them a hug if they'll allow you to hug them. But you want to be the calm person. You want to be the voice and presence of reason at that time.
I am learning so much from Dr. Rose Moten over these last few days. And Karen, it really is, it's helping me as a reporter as I talk to these parents and these students, because sometimes even as I'm talking to them, I can see the escalation of emotion as they're remembering, as they're talking about what's going on. And so these are really, really important things to understand. Stay with me. At 6 o'clock, she says there's one thing we can do immediately in acute crisis. It's right here, a tool right here in front of us, and most of us basically ignore it. Working on that story for 6, Karen.
All right.
Love Dr. Moten.
I do too. I was talking with her on set yesterday. Her perspective is so important, and just her calmness. You know, when you talk to her,
She
calms you down. She does. She's special.
While you're talking to her, she's calming you down.
Know, she is. All right. Thanks, Paula. We'll check back with you a little bit later. We do have several crews on campus right now. Our coverage of the shooting aftermath is going to continue tonight at 5 and 6, so make sure to stay with us. Got some breaking news from Hollywood, where the legendary beauty Raquel Welch has died. She had a long career with more than 70 films and TV credits to her name, including movies like Fantastic Voyage, 1 Million Years BC, and Legally Blonde. Welch leaves behind 2 children. We're told she died after a brief illness. She was 82 years old. In this Local 4 update, a suspect in a deadly hit and run over in Oakland Township has agreed to return to the United States from Thailand. 57-year-old Tubton Sue Housen faces state charges for the accident that killed a Michigan State student who was home for the holidays. Benjamin Cable died on New Year's Day, and Housen bought a one-way ticket to Thailand on January 3rd. She's also facing a federal charge related to flying out of the country. Thai authorities say she should be flown back to the U.S. before Sunday. So if you spend any time outside today, you probably felt those strong wind gusts. Take a look at the flags here flying. That other one there is actually wrapped around the pole. We've been under a wind advisory. We just got some new information about tomorrow. What is the latest, Kim?
Well, the latest is we go under a winter weather advisory starting tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. More on that in a moment, but the wind advisory that we had throughout the day has just expired at 4 o'clock, but that doesn't mean it's not still windy. Here's a look at our current wind gusts: 43 miles per hour at Metro Airport, 35 mile per hour gusts at City Airport, and then 43 in Pontiac. So it remains a very windy afternoon. Some of the top peak gusts around the state. 60 leads the way out at Metro Airport, a 60 mile per hour gust. That's pretty high gust, and that explains why we are seeing some power outages. If you look at the legend up here, the yellow indicates anywhere between 10 to 25,000 people without power in Wayne County. The lighter blue, the turquoise you see here, indicates 5 to 10,000. So lots of power outages. But now we're going to shift our attention to a winter weather advisory that will go into effect tomorrow, as we expect a wintry mix throughout the afternoon. I'll have more on that coming up in the forecast.
All right. Thank you, Kim. There's anger, grief, and drama at the sentencing of a white supremacist who killed 10 black people at a Buffalo supermarket last May. One person in court erupted in rage. Kimberly Gill shows us what happened, and things got really scary at times, Kim.
Karen, they did. Good afternoon to you. It was a tough day, really, in court for family and friends of the people who were gunned down at that supermarket, a place where you'd hope you'd be safe. But as we've seen again and again, safety isn't really guaranteed anywhere. In court, the anger just against convicted killer Peyton Gendron almost turned physical. Watch the man in the gray sweatsuit here.
We love our kids. We never go in no neighborhoods and take people out. Don't do it.
Yeah, you see Gendron was hustled out of the courtroom there. The man was quickly restrained and the hearing resumed after about 10 minutes or so. One family member said Gendron had been brainwashed on the internet to hate black people as he traveled from his mostly white community to Buffalo to launch a mass murder. Gendron pleaded guilty in November to crimes including murder and domestic terrorism motivated by hate. He apologized in court, but the judge was not swayed.
I did a terrible thing that day. I shot and killed people because they were black. Looking back now, I can't believe I actually did it. I believed what I read online and acted out of hate. I know I can't take it back, but I wish I could. And I don't want anyone to be inspired by me and what I did.
There is no place for you or your ignorant, hateful, and evil ideologies in a civilized society. There can be no mercy for you, no understanding, no second chances.
The judge sentenced Gendron to 10 life sentences to run concurrently. She refused to give the 19-year-old youthful offender status, which might have given him a chance to re-enter society. He also faces separate federal charges that could carry a death penalty, but his attorney says he's prepared to plead guilty to avoid execution. So, Karen, another chapter in another tragic story. We'll send it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Kim. Well, she used to work with former President Donald Trump. Now, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley is challenging him in the 2024 race for the White House. Haley officially kicked off her campaign with a rally today. The 51-year-old says it is time for a new generation of leaders. She was Trump's ambassador to the United Nations for nearly 2 years. Her home state of South Carolina has been a key presidential battleground. The winner of the Republican primary there has gone on to win the party's nomination in every election except one.